If you're a woman who trains hard, fuels clean most days, and still feels like you're stuck spinning your wheels, this one's for you. I'm Dylan, a high performance coach obsessed with helping driven women unlock their strength, their physique, and the power that they know is inside of them. I've coached elite athletes, world record holders, and everyday women who are just sick of feeling flat, foggy, and fried. In this No BS episode, I'm going to give you the exact blueprint that we have used to help unleash your next level. I'll be walking you through why you feel stuck even when you're doing everything right, the nutrition tactics that fuels a badass machine of a body you have, how to train for real strength, and more importantly, beats all the boys, and the mindset shifts that I've seen build unshakable confidence while also going through something that I believe more men should be talking about because it's something that impacts women so deeply, which is how to use your hormonal cycle as a performance edge and not a setback. This is 10 years of coaching packed into one powerful breakdown, and let's dive in. So where I want to start today is with the something that I believe one is not talked about enough by anyone, but two, not talked about enough by guys or guys that understand this, especially from if you're coaching women. And so I've been lucky enough to coach women for the better part of over a decade now, probably about 12 years. I owned an all-female gym where we had everyday ladies come in. They were scared of barbells, scared to get bulky when we first opened, to absolutely falling in love with strength training and being proud of what their body could do rather than how it looked, which was incredible. And one of the biggest things that was a complete eye-opener for me, one as a coach and two just as a dude, was that the impacts of the menstrual cycle and how much it tells the story of how healthy the woman is in front of me. And so I want to break that down so that one, if you aren't educated on this as much as you could be, it's going to give you some great insights into how you can take your menstrual cycle and just use it as your gauge of like how healthy you are, and then also use it to maximize your performance. And so there is a big link between body composition and menstrual health. And so while this can be a touchy subject, your body composition will impact your menstrual cycle, and the way your body responds to it in a quite a large way. And why I believe this is really important is, I've seen women who have come into our gym and they were training really hard, and they were very lean, trying to get leaner and leaner, and essentially restricting their calories. And what happened one day was we had a lady, she was going really hard. I was really proud of her. I was like, this woman's working really hard. She's killing it, feeling really good. All of a sudden, she didn't show up for a week. Then she sent us a message. She's like, guys, apologies. I actually ended up in hospital with low iron anemia. And anemia, yeah. And what happened was anemic. What happened was she was training really hard, restricting her calories, and she also wasn't getting enough iron inside of her diet because she had poor absorption of her iron, and that led her to almost passing out and having to go to the hospital in a ambulance. And for me, this was a big shock. I was like, holy, I did not realize how much of an impact that could have on women. And it's something that's definitely not talked about enough. And when I realized this, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and this is why I believe body composition really matters in regards to how it impacts your cycle, and it's also a good gauge of where you can go with your body composition, because if your body composition or your body fat is too low, you have physiological stress. My partner Jess used to be a bodybuilder. She got very lean, and she also was on some birth control. What happened is she lost her cycle for about 5 to 6 years. She was essentially infertile and she couldn't have babies. She had to spend 2 years just trying everything she possibly could to get that back, and she honestly thought she'd never be able to have kids. She was lucky enough that eventually she found something that worked, reduced all the stresses from her life, had to gain about 20 kilos, stopped training, and then now she's got a beautiful baby girl, which is incredible. So too low, you're going to have a lot of that physiological stress on the body. Too high of a body composition, you're going to have hormonal disruption, and I'll go into this a little bit more. Optimal range though, in terms of body composition, probably sits somewhere between 18 and 25% body fat. Now, this is where I think a lot of ladies, get strength, performance, physique a little bit wrong, is like, if you were just to go where your body tells you that it's healthy by measuring against your menstrual cycle, you'll find that, your body composition is around that 18 to 25%. And reason why it will tell you this is because if it's too low, you probably will lose your menstrual cycle, or it be disrupted, or it's not consistent. If it's too high, it's quite likely that it's going to be painful. And so we've found out if we master this and we get you guys in the right position for your body fat, you have a lot less discomfort and a lot more performance. And so when you are within that ideal range, okay, you have stable menstrual cycles, you have low inflammation and better recovery, you have improved hormone balance between estrogen, progesterone, and leptin, you have increased fertility and long-term reproductive health, you have optimal performance, aesthetic outcomes without the system of stress, okay? And this is where health and high performance coexist, and this is where we really like to help out and assist our ladies get to, because where the body is lean enough to move well, recover fast, and look athletic, but not so depleted that it down-regulates hormonal health, we find that it's just a beautiful place to be. And so when we look at what happens when you have too low a body fat, it's generally somewhere below that 15 to 17%. What you'll find is that your body starts shutting down reproduction. It also starts shutting down your immune system, and it starts to just underperform a lot. Leptin, a hormone produced by your fat cells, drops, and it signals it's not safe to reproduce. And that is the first signal that your body is not healthy enough to go and produce life, which means that it's going to shut down everything else as well. Estrogen and progesterone decline, and this is going to decrease in performance as well. Your menstrual cycle becomes irregular and may stop altogether, which is what happened to my partner with a symptom called amenorrhea, and she's got a great video on this channel actually on going over how that impacted her. Bone density loss, poor recovery, and a higher injury risk. Okay, and so this state is called REDS, relative energy deficiency in sport. It's not just about calories, but body fat availability to maintain hormonal health. Okay, and so I believe that's something that's not talked about enough for women who are trying to be athletic, perform really, really well, or decrease body fat. It's something that can be nowhere near as healthy as what people believe. The next thing is having too high of a body fat. So this is generally above 30 to 35%. And for me, I really don't care what people say. It's like having a higher body fat is going to have hormonal disruptions that are going to impact your body. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. If you got too much body fat on you, it's just not good for your health. Estrogen can become dysregulated, okay? And so what this does is that you get an excessive aromatization from fat tissue. So when you have too much estrogen in the body, it's going to increase inflammation. You're going to have higher systemic inflammation levels, and inflammation is one that's going to make your body feel sore. It's going to increase the pain of your period. It's going to decrease performance because you just don't feel like training. It's going to make you more moody, and it's something that's just going to disrupt everything that's going on. It's also not good for your health long term. You're going to have an increased risk of irregular cycles, and you may have PCOS-like symptoms. This is actually something that we've dealt with a lot with our ladies, is they have symptoms that lean towards PCOS, but realistically it's just this high levels of inflammation that is causing this. And so once we get them to a point where we're inside of that optimal body fat percentage, we actually find a lot of these symptoms disappear. And so you're also going to have poor insulin sensitivity. And so there's a few reasons why this is important, is because when you are insulin sensitive, it's much easier to get lean and stay lean and stay in, what most of our ladies overtraining for a decade, the sort of body shape and body composition that they've wanted. Once we get them there, it's much easier to maintain. You're also going to have worsened PMS, you're going to have lower energy, and you may just feel like you're hungry all the time, but you've got no energy, you got fatigue, and you can't lose weight. Okay, and so having in those areas of an optimal body fat composition is going to be determined, for you by how your body responds in terms of your menstrual cycle. If you just use your menstrual cycle as a scorecard for how healthy you are, you'll find that performance, strength, body composition, all the rest of it starts to fall in place. And so I wanted to start that video with that because I believe it's extremely important, and it probably is the one big determining factor or differentiation between men and women. Okay, and so the next part I'm going to go over is how to fuel your body to perform. Okay, and so this would be the number one game changer that I've seen for women, hands down, is when we get their body fueling for performance versus fueling to restrict, their strength, their shape of their body, and their performance just all goes through the roof. And so let's make one thing clear, okay? Training hard on low calories, low carbs, and high stress is a fast track to burnout, not just results. And this is for absolutely anybody. It's not just women, but women are more prone to having this approach to their training and nutrition. And so all you're going to do when you are in this state is basically burn yourself out. You'll go in this loop, this cycle where you go hard for a while, you'll see some quick results, and then you'll just crash and burn. On the flip side, if you use carbohydrates the way that they are intended by the body, which is your most preferred fuel source, your source of energy that's preferred by the brain, and the fuel that fuels your muscles to contract harder, recover faster, perform better, you're going to find that, one, you build a crazy amount of strength, and the stronger you are, the more calories you'll burn, the more you enjoy your training because you have a performance goal versus just a physique goal, and also the more muscle you'll build to build the shape that you want as well. You're also just going to feel much better because having more carbohydrates in your diet is going to increase levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin. Serotonin is the feel good, make you feel chill, make you feel happy, and also make you feel calm neurotransmitter that is impacted by carbohydrates in your system. And so what actually happens when you fuel like a high performing female? You're going to build muscle that actually shows. You'll recover faster than your mates, and you'll find that, using that fuel and having that fuel available, your PMS symptoms will drop, your mood stabilizes, your energy returns, and you stop dreading the gym, and you start to really get some huge performance improvements. The biggest enemy here isn't, more training. It isn't trying to restrict your calories or decrease your body fat. It's the belief that small is better, okay? And so shrinking your body won't expand your life, fueling it will. If we can just flip that one little mindset and be like, look, I'm going to fuel my body using carbohydrates, you'll find that, as we said in the start of this video, that you'll get closer to that optimal body composition because your body has what it needs to go hard at everything in life. And once you attack that, you'll find that, your body composition improves, everything feels better, and you'll just feel much better itself. So why carbs are a bit of a cheat code here is when we train, we deplete glycogen, okay? So we require glycogen to fuel the brain so that we can wire our nervous system to make sure that everything we do can be done in an optimal state, okay? And so when we are training really hard, generally we'll have glycogen in both our liver and also our muscles. If we don't have carbohydrates present in our bloodstream by the carbohydrates we eat, we'll start to suck out carbohydrates or the glycogen from our muscles. Once that gets to a level where there's not enough circulating in the blood, we won't put more into our muscles, which is going to decrease the amount of strength we can produce. And I know a lot of women over the years, they've essentially not wanted to eat before training, or they come to the gym to burn calories and they're like, oh, if I don't eat, I'll burn more calories and I'll burn more of that fat. While that is potentially, in a way, it is, you are going to utilize more fat because there is not carbohydrates available. You're actually going to burn more long term by training harder in that session, by building more strength, by building more muscle. And the people that are trying to burn more calories during their training session forgets about the other 23 hours of the day. Okay, and so if you fuel your body with carbohydrates before, during, and after your training session, you're going to show up to that training session feeling better, ready to attack it, like really, really motivated. During that training session, you're not going to have a decrease. You're not going to get flat. You're not going to get tired because you're able to train harder as well. You're able to lift more weights. You're going to hit more PBs, and you're going to get more from your training. Carbohydrates straight after training is you're going to recover a lot faster. You're going to reduce cortisol, which means you're going to have less stress in your life. You're going to have better recovery, better hormone balance, and it's also going to boost serotonin so that you have better sleep and a better nervous system reset. Overall, carbohydrates are one of the best things that you can have for, every aspect of your life in terms of performance, training, and recovery, and also getting better results from your training as well. One thing that we actually do for our women that are in that healthy body composition ranges is having 30 to 40 grams of carbs and creatine during your training. If you're in a training session and you're lifting really hard, you're training anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes, having those carbohydrates during your training will decrease what's called the recovery debt of your training. So when you train really hard, obviously you have, you start to decrease your performance, or you actually impose demands that are going to fatigue you. And so when you have that carbohydrates and creatine in your system while you're training, you'll decrease the amount of fatigue that you have so that you recover faster. In every training session subsequent to that, you actually find that you have more in it because you're actually recovered. So it's actually a really, really good thing. Another thing about nutrition is having enough protein. And everyone goes on about having enough protein to grow muscle, but it also does a few other things as well. It helps regulate your insulin so that you're getting more of the fuel you have in your body to the muscles so that you can actually build muscle, build strength, and decrease all of those inflammation systems. Helps you build lean mass, okay? And so if you build lean mass, you're going to have less fat mass over time, okay? So more muscle is essentially an insurance policy to stay lean, to stay healthy, to stay metabolically well as you get older. And so the more muscle you can build, the better. You need protein to do that. It also fuels menstrual health by helping with the hormone production that makes your hormones, that makes your menstrual cycle better. It also increases your metabolic rate as well, and that's why having enough protein in your diet, along with strength training, is going to keep you leaner with less effort, which is beautiful. So, also too, calories in versus calories out is a really important part of the body composition equation. When you have calories determine how much you weigh, macronutrients determine how your body looks, micronutrients determine how your body feels. And so everybody's going to go on about calories in versus calories out and eat your protein. But in my opinion, macronutrients and then also micronutrients are extremely, extremely important. Carbohydrates are your preferred fuel source for performance training. Protein is the source, or is the building blocks of your body to build and repair tissues, muscles, your nails, your hair, your skin. If that's looking good, you're probably getting enough protein. Then we have fats. Fats come along with a ton of micronutrients that are really, really important for, not only female health, but health in general. And so when we really look at what we need inside of our body, for women in particular, these micronutrients are very, very important. We have iron. Obviously, you need iron to transport oxygen around the blood. It also helps with that period as well. Vitamin D, one of the best micronutrients for hormonal health. It's also for your immunity, and it's one of the things that if we don't have enough all performance markers will start to decrease. If you are living, anywhere where you're not outside in the direct sunlight for, let's say, 30 minutes per day, you're probably going to need an increase in vitamin D. Magnesium is a really, really important micronutrient in regards to all metabolic functions, essentially all nervous system functions, and it is something that you can really get some really good returns from for a super cheap supplement. I personally like either a magnesium threonate or a magnesium glycinate. Magnesium threonate, it will help with cognitive function. It crosses the blood-brain barrier really, really well, and it supports brain and thinking function. Magnesium glycinate will essentially chill out the nervous system just a touch little more because it binds with the molecule of glycine, which is a nervous system regulator. Zinc is one of the most important micronutrients for women in regards to just health. Okay, and so we've had a couple of ladies. One had, really, really bad acne. She was like, I just hate my skin. Okay, and so she went on a birth control pill to do this, but she's like, this thing just makes me, in her words, a psycho. I just hate this stuff. It makes me feel really, really bad. What we did, based on a blood test, we found that she was deficient in zinc. So we gave her some zinc supplementation. Beautiful thing about that, it helped with the processing of her hormones, and then we also worked on some stuff to help with her liver health as well, and all of a sudden her acne cleared up. She was able to get off that birth control, and then she was also, she just felt better overall. And so zinc is one of those things that will improve, a lot in terms of your immune system. It's also going to improve a lot with your menstrual cycle as well. B vitamins for energy, calcium, and omega-3s are the other micronutrients. Biggest thing here is test, don't guess. Get some good blood work going. We do a lot of blood work testing for our clients, and we run through our system so that we can see where your deficiencies are to make sure that you're getting exactly what you need. And I highly recommend, getting a blood test every 4 months, for a year, because you will see where your blood has been, what's been going on in your health and your system before, what's going on right now, and what's likely to happen in the future. And so if you do that every 4 months for a year, you'll be able to improve the health of what's going on under the hood extremely well. Now, when it comes to nutrition, we have a really great protocol that has worked an absolute treat, and I'm going to tack this onto a strength protocol that we've found really good. But first of all, I'm going to teach you what has worked really well in terms of getting our women extremely strong. And so I've been lucky enough to train women of all sort of age brackets, experience backgrounds, and all walks of life. And so we've had women who have come into the gym in their 50s, never touched a barbell, and then within a couple years they're deadlifting 2 times their body weight. We've had women who have been so shy, so scared of the gym that they would never ever walk into a big commercial gym. Within 6 months, they're absolutely falling in love with a barbell. Then we've also worked with women who have made the Olympics, professional sports team, broken world records and national records in strength sports. And we've just been able to see firsthand what works really, really well. And one of the biggest things that we've found that is women can often recover quite a bit faster than guys. So some of the programming that we've used, if I was to use it, for example, I'd be crushed. I'd be like, what is this? And there's a few reasons for that. I have a really high output and a really high training age, so I'm able to get a lot out of just a smaller dose of training. Also too, in general, women are a little bit healthier than most guys as well. They'll tend to sleep better, they'll tend to eat better, less inflammation, especially when they're doing the right things. And we'll find that, their recovery is much, much higher, and they're able to get more out of their training and adapt faster. One thing too is once they realize they often, have a bit of a point to prove of how fucking strong a woman can be. And so what we've found is that you're made to lift heavy, often, and with purpose. Okay, and so the secret sauce is building fast twitch fiber recruitments. Okay, and so most women, if you've done a lot of cardio or just light weights your whole life, for those women that are watching this and are lifting heavy, you'll know exactly what I talk about. Once you start to feel strong and once you start to work on power training and fast twitch muscle fiber training, you'll have strength, power, and lean muscle, and you'll just never look back. Okay, and so what we found to work really, really well is hitting, your big compound lifts 2 to 4 times per week. Okay, and so why this has worked quite well is we've found that having a higher frequency of movement patterns allows our girls to improve their strength really, really quickly. And I think this is more of just a case of what most women have used in their training, and the way that they need more stimulus or a more frequent stimulus to be able to adapt to the skill. Okay, and so what I mean by that is, say for example you take a squat. We've found that we can get women from absolute beginner to an intermediate level, say lifting their body weight on a squat, within 8 to 12 weeks, just purely because we're squatting 3 times per week in some sort of variation. Same goes for bench press, pull-ups, deadlifts. We've just found that having that higher frequency, you get to practice the skill more. Okay, and so reason why that will generally work for most women better than it will work for most guys is just auto-regulation. Okay, and so from what most guys, as we know, have an ego. And so if you give guys squats, deadlifts, bench press 3 days per week, they're just going to go hard. They're going to burn out and collapse within 4 weeks. Where women are going to be a bit more cautious, they're going to take their time, they're going to work on technique. That allows us to do those lifts more often. And then we find that higher frequency, that skill increases much, much faster. And what we've also found here is using a heavy light contrast system of training. And so what this is called wave training, post-activation potentiation training. But basically what it is you'll take a heavy weight, let's say somewhere between 3 to 6 reps, and you'll hit, say, a shoulder press, 6 reps. Okay, then we'll go to something like 10 reps, and you'll drop the weight a little bit. What we've generally found, and this is more of someone who's beginner to it, intermediate, is that 10 reps won't be far off their 6 reps. A couple of waves, their 6 reps is much, much higher. It could be anywhere between 5 to 20% higher. And then what they were doing initially for that 6 reps is now their 10 reps. And we've found that whether it's inside of just a single training session, or undulating the periodization or undulating the training throughout the week with that heavy light, we've just found that the results from that can be phenomenal especially in terms of confidence around strength. What we've also found to work really, really well is plyometric sprints and then also pump work. And this might go against the grain, but also a lot of cardio as well. And so there's all this backlash against cardio, but when we really look at it, is cardiovascular training is the fundamental piece I believe is missing from a lot of training overall. And it sort of was this trend for a while where it's like, nah, just lift weights, don't do any cardio training. But when you look at what cardiovascular training does, it actually improves the stress resilience of the human in front of you. Okay, and so when we have some quality cardiovascular training, not to burn calories but to improve the performance of the system, we can add in low intensity steady state cardio. At a base level you can do steps, you can do walking. I prefer actually some sort of tempo interval training where it's you're working at a 6 out of 10 for about a minute, then you might ramp up to an 8 out of 10 for about 10-15 seconds. Do this for 20 to 30 minutes. What will happen is you improve the insulin sensitivity, you improve the fat utilization, you also decrease stress by improving parasympathetic tone, increasing HRV and decreasing your resting heart rate. And that alone is going to be something that is going to improve the overall health of not just women but anyone in general. And if you can fit this in during your training week, it's very, very powerful. Okay, and so we have found that for most of our ladies, over time, we've found that what they really like in terms of performance and then also their physique is similar to like a power building structure, but with bikini type exercises as well. And so we've found, a really good system that has worked an absolute treat is what we call our 16-week hard body protocol. And what we have is anywhere between 4 to 6 days of training. And what we'll do on day one is you're going to do a heavy day, okay? And so you're going to do somewhere between 3 to 8 reps. And it's going to be a whole body training split or an upper lower training split, okay? And on these days, what you're looking to do is push your training on an exercise. Generally, some of the big compound lifts where you can go, a couple reps in reserves. If you're a little bit more advanced, this is probably going to be somewhere between 70 and 85%, okay? So relatively high intensity exercises. Then on the second day, okay, so this is actually directly after that first heavy training day, or a day after as well, is you're going to do a light day. And we actually mix this up with some explosive work and then also some pump work, okay? And the reason why we like the explosive work is what we found is that once women start to get strong, they're often quite slow. This is obviously dependent on who it is, but this is just, I believe, due to the style of training most women have done. And when we add in that explosive work, power cleans, jumps, slam balls, things that are going to make you move fast, the heavy days become much faster and that strength just goes up. So adding in that explosive work has been absolutely phenomenal, and it works really well. Generally somewhere between 2 to 6 reps, 60 every 60 seconds, an EMOM type thing, almost as a warm-up, as a primer on this light day, is something that's going to be very helpful. What we also do there is we have pump work, and this is where we use more of our isolation work. This is where we might use more of our unilateral work, and we'll use anywhere between 8 to 30 reps for pump and to build shape, okay? And so reason why we find this system of training works an absolute treat is because on the heavy days, obviously you've pushed the muscles hard, you've created this whole body stimulus which is going to adapt to a whole body strength, a whole body hypertrophy, but it's also something that is going to be very powerful and needs some recovery. Doing this light day afterwards, you're taking the advantage of that anabolic window. You're also shuttling more nutrients to the blood to help recover. And that explosive work is actually going to refire the nervous system. It's going to start the recovery process, and it's going to help you recover a lot faster. Using that pump work, it's also going to take what you built yesterday in terms of the heavy nervous system work and allow you then to get a lot of work out of some quality hypertrophy work, but also shuttle blood to the joints so that your joints feel really good. We've found that this training style will help you not only get strong as hell, it's also going to make you perform well. It's going to put the focus on performance, and the shape that it builds for this, our women are just like, this is absolutely phenomenal. What we do is we actually pair that with a nutrition protocol as well. What we found really well, and this gets very good results very fast, but also keeps them long term, is we start with a reset and rebuild protocol. And so for the first 2 to 4 weeks of this, depending on where you're at, okay, so if your body composition is in the slightly higher, we will build this out for about 4 weeks for the initial phase. If it's slightly lower, it may be just 1 to 2 weeks, okay? And so in our first week, we actually do what's called a diet boot camp, okay? And so we just go very high quality, very nutrient dense foods in terms of proteins, fats, and vegetables. We completely clean up everything to reduce inflammation, to help to balance the hormonal health, and to flood your body with the nutrients that it needs to perform at its absolute best and also have a high amount of protein. Now, we actually reduce calorie intake just a little bit here to carbohydrate intake here, just to reset the insulin sensitivity, because we want to, what we found is that as we set up in the menstrual cycle health section, if you have better insulin sensitivity, your period health is going to be better. You're going to increase the way your body improve the way your body uses fuel for strength and performance versus storing as body fat. And then we reintroduce our rebuild section, okay? And so then we go and gradually reintroduce carbohydrates, especially around your training program, okay? We introduce low GI carbs, which are slower burning so that you can metabolize them better and get your body, once again, more insulin sensitive. And in a sense, insulin sensitivity is probably the most important thing for human health, because you're going to utilize fuel, your metabolic health's going to be better, mitochondrial health, and when we stage this and give you back more carbohydrates, you start to use them better. What you'll start to find is that your muscles start to look fuller. You have, more defined, more tones, more shape, because your muscles are using that fuel better. What we also do at this point too, depending on where your body composition is, we will either sit at maintenance or just below your maintenance calories, or we will increase and rebuild in what's called a reverse diet for your calories. And so we'll add 100 to 200 calories of good carbohydrates every week, so that we can start to improve your performance, make you train harder. When paired with our 16-week hard body training split, you'll find that you got the best results of your life. You're stronger, you're feeling better, your PMS symptoms disappear, and you just feel absolute incredible. And so our women have had crazy results with this, hitting PRs on everything, gone from feeling a little bit fluffy in their words to like, holy shit, I love the way I look in the mirror. Okay, and I also love the fact that I'm hitting what I never thought was possible in terms of my strength training. I'm hitting it for multiple reps. Okay, and they're really loving it. Probably the biggest thing that I'd love to finish off with here is that the mindset that matches the mission. Okay, and so what I've found is that it's not a motivation thing, it's a belief thing. One lady asked me, Dylan, what's the biggest thing you've learned over having an all-female gym for 8 years? And it was that when women know that they can, nothing can stop them. When they're in an environment that supports them, makes them feel safe, is empathetic to what's going on, and allows them to just be them, nothing ever fucking holds them back. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch in regards to seeing how strong, how powerful, and how determined women can be when they're literally just told that they can be. And so what I've found is that when our clients have thrived the most, it's not because they chase perfection, but because they train with autonomy, empathy, and ownership. When you trust the process, when you start to embrace performance training versus just how you look, everything else really starts to level up. Feedback should also be empathetic. You may not be where you want to be, but if you focus on the process and know that day by day you're doing those little things that in relation to training and nutrition, you'll find that you always get there. And confidence doesn't come from how you look, it comes from how you show up. Okay, and this is the biggest form of self-love, is self-discipline. And we've found that when women are like, look, I just want to fucking feel my best. Okay, and when they just make that decision to be self-disciplined, their self-confidence just goes through the roof. They know that they're in control of the way that they look and feel. And when they just embrace the process, they focus on that, they feel absolutely incredible. And so I'm going to finish off with today. I hope that you found that insightful. Any questions, just drop them in the chat here. I just want to remind you, you're not here to play small. You're not here to keep guessing. You're here to master your body, own your power, and perform with performance. Look, if you are ready to step into your full potential with some expert eyes, personalized program, and a coach that knows how you're wired, and you'd love to go over a similar system that we've talked about in these videos, just fill out the form in the description and let's build it. Stop shrinking, start showing the fuck up, and let's get to work.